Leo, let's get straight to it. A lawyer is going to contact you soon, and it's not a coincidence, a prank, or a scam. It's real. And it's about something urgent that's been waiting to find its way back to you. Something that could open the door to your career, your money, and most importantly your peace. You didn't just stumble on this video for no reason. I know that sounds dramatic, but you know it, don't you? Deep down, you've been feeling it. That nudge. That restlessness. That little voice that keeps whispering, something's coming. That's not anxiety, Leo. That's your soul tuning into something your mind hasn't caught up with yet. If your sun sign, moon sign, or rising is in Leo, you're already built to shine. You don't need permission to take up space. But lately, you've been dimming your light, haven't you? Playing it safe. Carrying burdens that were never yours. And waiting for anyone to finally say, "Hey, this isn't fair. Let me help you fix it." Well, guess what? That someone is about to show up. There's a message, legal, official, overdue, heading your way. It could be about a settlement. Back pay. An inheritance. A frozen account. A mistake someone buried. Or even a benefit or entitlement that you should have received long ago. But now it's moving. And the strange part? It's not just about money. It's about alignment. I've seen it happen more times than I can count. Someone's stuck for years, feeling like no one sees their effort. Then, out of nowhere, a lawyer, a letter, or a phone call comes and it cracks the lock open. Suddenly, life starts moving again. The weight lifts. Not because the money changes everything, but because they finally feel like the universe remembers their name. Leo, if you've been praying for relief, not just financial, but emotional, spiritual, stay with me. Don't click off too soon. This isn't about blind hope or pretty predictions. It's about the real shift that begins when truth finally catches up with time. And no, not everyone is getting this message. Not today. But you are. Which tells me one thing, you're ready. Maybe not in every way. Maybe you're still doubting yourself, still tired, still angry. That's okay. But you're here. And that means something bigger than logic has led you to this exact moment. Now, I'm not here to preach or impress. I'm here to speak to the part of you that's still holding on. That still believes something good can happen after everything you've been through. That still wants to believe in divine timing even if part of you gave up on it a long time ago. So before we move into the rest of this message, take a second. Breathe. Then let me ask you something. What if this really is the sign you've been waiting for? If you feel that, even just a little comment below and write, "I'm ready to receive the truth meant for me." Not for engagement. Not for numbers. For you. To mark this moment. To let the universe know you're not just watching passively, you're showing up. Because this story isn't just about a lawyer or a legal issue. It's about justice. Closure. Release. And a new beginning. And Leo, the first promise, you'll want to stay with me until the very end. Because what's about to be revealed could change everything you thought was lost. You know, sometimes it doesn't take a miracle to change your life. Just one phone call. One unexpected message. One letter you weren't planning to open that day. That's all it takes to shift the weight off your chest. And Leo, for you, that moment is coming, and it won't come in fireworks. It'll come in the quiet. A conversation. A notice. Maybe even a voice you weren't expecting to hear. But don't be afraid. I'm not talking about trouble. I'm not talking about court battles or legal traps. I'm talking about freedom, the kind that most people wait a lifetime for and never see coming. There is someone, a lawyer, an advocate, maybe even a person who's been behind the scenes working on your behalf, who's about to reach out. And while it may seem like just paperwork or protocol at first glance, I need you to understand something. This moment has been building for years. You didn't lose it. It didn't forget you. It's just finally caught up. For some of you, this may be connected to money that's been frozen, tied up in red tape, or held back by someone else's delay. It might be benefits you qualified for but never received. A settlement that was paused. A contract that was never honored. Maybe even a legal case you gave up on emotionally, but that never really gave up on you. What matters now is not how long it's taken. What matters is that the wheel is finally turning. You don't need to fear the legal system when you're no longer on trial, when you're the one being seen, heard, and honored. And that's what this energy is bringing in. A correction. A rebalancing. A delayed form of justice that might not fix everything, but it will validate what you've been carrying in silence. I know some of you might be tempted to ignore the call. To tell yourself, it's probably nothing. To scroll past it. Delete the voicemail. Postpone the email. But I urge you, don't. Not this time. Because this is more than just a notification. It's a door. And when you open it, you're not just unlocking money or information. You're stepping into the next version of your life, one where you don't have to keep proving your worth over and over again. I've worked with enough people to know when something's karmic and when something is overdue. This? It's both. It's tied to something you've tried to release, but haven't quite been able to. That legal matter, that account, that missing piece, it's not just paperwork. It's part of your healing. And that's why this isn't about law in the traditional sense. It's about release. Release from patterns. From delays. From stories where you were made to feel like the one who had to wait, sacrifice, or explain yourself to be treated fairly. Not anymore. So if your heart's racing a little right now, if something in your gut says, this is about me, you're right. It is. And I want you to take a second to ground that knowing. Breathe. And when you're ready, tell me in the comments, I'm ready to receive what's been waiting for me. Not for attention, but for intention. Because when you speak it, the energy begins to move faster. Your field opens. Your readiness signals that you're not hiding anymore. You're showing up. And that, Leo, is where everything begins to change. Not because you begged, but because you finally stopped running from what was always yours. What often surprises people the most is that the moment they finally stop chasing something, it finds its way to them. And I think, Leo, that might be what's happening to you right now. After all the effort, the waiting, the silent endurance, something is finally about to move. There's a financial thread in your energy that's been tangled for too long. For some of you, it might look like an old insurance claim that's been left unresolved. For others, it could be severance pay, pension funds, back wages, or inheritance issues that got buried under someone else's paperwork. But the specifics aren't the most important part. What matters here is the pattern, the feeling of being owed something. Not just by a person or a system, but by life itself. You've done the work. You've been patient. And now, it's not about pushing harder, it's about allowing what's already yours to come back into your hands. Energetically, I see this not as a delay but as a divine alignment. Some things can't arrive early not because you're unworthy, but because they're time to meet the version of you who can receive them without fear or self-sabotage. If this had come to you too soon, you may have spent it out of panic. You may have used it to fix the wrong problem. But now, you're different. More aware. Less reactive. More in control of what you're building. That's why this moment matters. In the tarot, when the Justice card aligns with the Harvest card, it doesn't just mean payment. It means payment with purpose. It means that the blessing comes bundled with a sense of redemption. You're not just being paid, you're being remembered. And if you've been seeing repeating numbers lately, 777, 999, or 1111, don't brush them off as coincidence. These are time stamps from the universe. Signposts. Each sequence carries its own vibration. 777 signals spiritual completion and reward. 999 points to the end of a karmic cycle. And 1111? That's a doorway. It's the moment between almost and it's finally here. But here's the part people don't always talk about: what to do once the money comes. If you've been financially constrained for a long time, it's easy to go into survival mode the second something shifts. You want to catch up, make up for lost time, fix everything at once. I get it. But I want you to take a breath first. Not because you shouldn't enjoy what's coming, but because this isn't about fixing old holes. It's about designing something new. What would it look like to use this money to create more freedom? To invest not in comfort, but in clarity? To choose things that make you less dependent, less afraid, less tangled? This is your moment to plant seeds for a life you don't need a break from. One that isn't built on survival, but on choice. And yes, even small rituals can help you root this energy. When the funds arrive, whether it's through a legal win, a government release, a contract that finally clears, try something simple. Eat yellow foods that remind your body of abundance. Golden corn. Bright turmeric. Juicy pineapple. Let your body taste what richness feels like. Let it register on every level that the dry season is over. If you're feeling this shift already even before it lands, write it down in the comments below. I'm ready to receive what belongs to me. Let that be your agreement with the energy. Your quiet yes to the momentum that's been building behind the scenes. Because it's not just money that's on its way, it's relief, clarity, and finally, room to breathe. Sometimes, what keeps us stuck isn't what's missing, it's what we're still trying to hold together. And Leo, I have to be honest with you. The energy around you right now doesn't just speak of gain. It speaks of release. A necessary one. And even if you've known it was coming, it doesn't make the choice any easier. I know how loyal you can be. When you give your energy to something, a job, a relationship, a role, you don't half love it. You show up. You try. You fix. You stay longer than most would. You give people the benefit of the doubt. You tell yourself, it's just a phase, or maybe it's me. And before you know it, you've built your life around something that no longer reflects who you are. That feeling you've been having lately, the tension, the anxiety, the disconnection, it's not random. It's not burnout. It's your higher self knocking. Saying, it's time. When the tarot shows the path card next to the signal, it's not just about movement, it's about being nudged. Repeatedly. Gently at first. Then louder. Little things begin to go wrong. People start showing their true colors. Conversations become heavier. Rest becomes harder. And still, you hang on. Because letting go feels like quitting. But it's not. It's actually a sign that you're evolving. In astrology, Leo is ruled by the sun, the source of light, expression, and identity. When your environment starts dimming that natural radiance, it's a message. When you feel smaller in a space that once made you feel proud, that's a signal. Not because you've failed, but because you've outgrown it. And I want to say this clearly, leaving something behind doesn't mean it was a mistake. It means it served its purpose. It shaped you, challenged you, gave you something to love or something to survive, or maybe both. But not everything that helped build you is meant to go with you. Energetically, when we stay too long in something we've outgrown, our frequency starts to collapse inward. We spend more time managing conflict, questioning ourselves, or masking exhaustion than actually creating the life we came here to live. That's not loyalty, that's spiritual self-neglect. So here's something you can do that may help. Sit with yourself. Write down 10 things you are no longer willing to carry. These don't have to be dramatic. Maybe it's pretending I'm okay. Maybe it's taking the blame for other people's moods. Maybe it's making myself small so others feel comfortable. List them honestly. No judgment. Just truth. Then read them out loud, not to convince anyone else, but to affirm your own readiness. Because when you name what no longer belongs, the path ahead becomes clearer. And I know this isn't easy. Even if you're ready, endings can feel like grief. But what if this isn't an ending? What if this is just the part of the story where the chapter closes and the map folds open to something new? If you've been feeling this pull, like something in your life is trying to finish itself, I invite you to name it. Leave a comment below and say, I'm ready to release what no longer fits. Because when you claim it, even quietly, you begin to move the energy forward. You shift from holding on to honoring. From surviving to choosing. And that, Leo, is where your light begins to return, not as a flicker, but as a flame. After you leave something behind, a job, a place, a chapter of yourself, there's usually a quiet space that opens up inside. For some, it feels like peace. For others, it feels like confusion. But for most, it's both. Because once the noise settles and the distractions fall away, what often shows up next is the past. It might come as a memory, a dream, a name that pops up unexpectedly, or, more directly, a message from someone you thought you'd never hear from again. A person who left abruptly, or someone you left without closure. A family member, a former friend, a complicated love. And while that might sound dramatic, it's not always about rekindling. In fact, most of the time, it's about release. The kind that doesn't need an argument or an apology, just the honesty that says, we've reached the end of what we were meant to carry together. That's what the Six of Cups in Tarot is about. It's not just nostalgia. It's memory with a purpose. It invites you to revisit the past, not to dwell but to complete something you left open. Not because you owe anyone anything, but because your heart deserves to travel lighter. In astrology, when planets trigger the water houses, particularly the 4th, 8th, or 12th, you're invited inward. These are emotional houses. Soul houses. And when Leo is affected here, it's often about remembering the deeper parts of yourself that got buried under pride or survival. You might feel pulled to reach out. Or you might get contacted first. You might hesitate. That's normal. Sometimes the most meaningful healing doesn't come from saying, let's start again, but from saying, thank you for what we were. And I'm okay with moving on. Energetically, this kind of emotional closing is powerful. It's like untying an invisible cord around your heart. That cord may have been thin, but it still restricted your breath. And when it's gone, you begin to feel something you didn't even realize you were missing: softness. This week, try this if you feel called. Light a pastel pink candle, the color of emotional grace. It doesn't have to be big or expensive. Just enough to give your heart a soft anchor. While it's burning, breathe into your chest, not your shoulders, not your mind, just your chest. Imagine that space opening gently, like petals unfolding in warm light. If music supports you, look for 528 Hz, a frequency known to ease emotional contraction. Let it play quietly in the background while you journal, rest, or even cry a little. This isn't about fixing anything. It's about allowing space for things to land and then pass. And if someone does reach out, or if you're feeling the urge to break a silence, let your response come from your highest clarity, not your oldest wounds. Not every message needs a reply. But if a door does open, ask yourself, do I need to go through it? Or just close it softly and keep walking? If something in your heart knows this is your moment of closure, not revenge, not validation, just release. Leave a comment below and write, I'm ready to speak the last word with peace. You don't have to explain it to anyone. You just have to name it. Because sometimes the most profound turning point isn't loud. It's the whisper that finally sets you free. Once you've made peace with your past, something incredible begins to happen. Space opens. And in that space, you start to see not just what you survived, but what you're ready to build. Leo, this is that moment for you. Not just a breakthrough, but a turn in the road where you're no longer walking with your head down, but standing tall, eyes forward. The energy surrounding you now is filled with momentum, and the card that confirms it all is the Six of Wands. This card is not just about success, it's about earned success. The kind people whisper about. The kind that seems to come suddenly but is actually the result of years of quiet resilience. It speaks to public recognition, respect, and pride, not from being louder, but from being consistent when no one was watching. You didn't manipulate your way here. You didn't betray your values. You didn't take the easy way out. And that's what makes this so beautiful. Because this win isn't just material, it's spiritual. It's the kind of win that tells your nervous system, you're safe now. It tells your inner child, you didn't imagine the weight you carried, and now, you don't have to carry it anymore. And yes, money may be part of it, a raise, a win, a deal, a payment that finally clears, but what you're really receiving is choice. And choice is the truest form of wealth. Because when you're free to choose how you spend your time, who you share it with, where you put your energy, that's when you stop surviving and start living. This is your invitation to begin imagining. If you were fully free, what would you do first? Would you travel? Would you rest? Would you launch that project that's been circling your dreams for years? Would you say no to what drains you, and yes to what makes your soul light up? Write down 3 things you would do if you felt truly financially and emotionally free. Not tomorrow. Now. Because the moment you claim those things on paper, you begin aligning your energy with the life you're meant to lead, not just the one you've tolerated. Here's something else I recommend, and it's simple. Create a victory corner in your home. It doesn't have to be big or elaborate. Just a small shelf, a corner of your desk, a piece of wall. Put something there that reminds you of your strength. Maybe a framed photo from a day you felt proud. A note you wrote to yourself when you didn't quit. A dollar bill from the first time you earned money on your own terms. Make it sacred. Make it visible. Every time you walk past it, let it remind you, I'm not the same person I was a year ago, and I won't go back. Because ultimately, Leo, this journey hasn't been about winning against others. It's been about not giving up on yourself. You didn't cave to fear. You didn't let the world define your worth. You stayed in the game, even when you were tired. And now, the universe is responding. So if you feel this shift in your bones, this quiet but powerful knowing that your life is no longer on hold, speak it. Share it below in the comments. I choose my life again, in the light of who I've become. Let those words be a declaration. Because the road ahead is yours and it's wide open. If you've made it this far, Leo, I want you to take a deep breath and let this truth settle in. Your life is not behind you. It's opening right now, and you hold the pen. The energy we've uncovered together, from justice and release to emotional healing and personal power, all leads us to this final piece: imagination. Not the kind that escapes reality, but the kind that shapes it. When the angel of imagination shows up, it's not a random symbol. It's an invitation. A cosmic whisper reminding you that what you see in your mind clearly, lovingly, consistently becomes the blueprint the universe starts working with. Your dreams are not naive. They are instructions. So here's a simple but powerful practice to carry into the next 3 weeks. Write down what a perfect day in your life would look like. As if it already happened. Write it in the present tense. Feel it. Don't just describe what happens, describe how you feel. What are you wearing? Who's around you? What's in your bank account? How does the air feel when you wake up? What are you proud of? When you write it, don't write from the version of you that's struggling. Write from the version of you who already made it. Because the more clearly you hold that image, the faster the world starts reshaping itself to match it. And yes, you can bring this practice into your physical space too. Try placing white or soft blue flowers in your home to invite clarity and openness of vision. Light a gold-toned candle not for superstition, but to symbolically spark the fire of belief. These small acts can anchor your energy in ways your mind alone can't always reach. You've heard a lot today about legal breakthroughs, financial restoration, emotional healing, spiritual realignment, and stepping fully into your own power. But I want to ask you something now. from one human being to another. What would shift in your life if you gave yourself permission to believe that change is already happening? And if you had the power to imagine yourself into a new chapter, would you dare to begin now? If your answer is yes, even just a whisper of a yes, then write it in the comments below. Say it with me: I am the author of my life. Let that be your declaration and your anchor. And if this message spoke to your heart today, please like this video, subscribe, and share your energy in the comments. Every click, every word you offer here, feeds the current of transformation we're building together. You are not just watching, you are co-creating. Don't forget to turn on notifications, so you never miss the next message waiting for you. Our journey is only just beginning. This is eternal mindfulness. And I am deeply grateful to walk this path alongside you. Until next time, remember, what you imagine with love, you summon with power.